After a very fun stint in Kansas City, the UFC sticks around the Midwest and makes their way over to Des Moines, Iowa. That's where we'll be this weekend. It's going to be a fun card. I'm looking forward to the matchups here. All the links are in the description. I'll see you in the first fight. In the women's flyweight division, we have Juliana Miller taking on Ivana Petrovic. Now, in this one here, Petrovic, she's 3-2 in her last 5 fights. 2-3 on the Miller side. Now, Miller, if you look, is only 3-3 on the career, so the experience edge is definitely going to Petrovic here. We will give a little bit of extra experience to Miller because of the Ultimate Fighter performances, where they're exhibitions, so they don't really count, but they kind of count, you know what I mean? So take that with a little pinch of salt there. But either way, we'll start with the Petrovic side. She's a decent striker. She basically comes forward and throws a pretty good one, too. That's what she has in the striking department. I would say that is, enough in this fight. She does have pretty good grappling, good body lock takedown. The thing I like is that she works to advance her position very quickly once she gets the fight to the mat. From there, she'll get to mount. She'll start going for the ground and pound, and that either leads to the TKO or the rear naked choke. Once she gets that ground and pound going, often her opponents will turn over and give up the neck. That's kind of how that works. Now, on the other side, Juliana Miller, her striking is basic. It's not very good. However, she makes up for a lot of her lackluster skill with aggressive forward pressure. This girl just comes forward like she's in a street fight. You know what I mean? The girl wants to just come in there and fling her arms at you and try to cause a little bit of damage while she works to get the fight to the mat, because on the feet, she isn't super skilled. But like I said, aggression can kind of make up for a small gap, just not a very big gap. Her defense is lacking on the feet as well. So that is an area where she's going to struggle. She's a pretty good grappler, though. She's got decent takedowns in the clinch, and she will outwork a lot of opponents on the mat just by being the more active fighter. And she's got a decent-sized sub-arsenal, so she can work in some stuff. A lot of it is very jiu-jitsu-based. So she needs to get the fight to the mat on her terms, I think, in this matchup, because Petrovic being pretty good in the grappling herself. If she gets on top, I think Miller is going to spend a lot of time trying to work off her back. That's just not a good way to win an MMA fight, typically. For me, there are a lot of really close fights on this card. There are a lot of fights on this card that you look at and you go, man, I just really don't know how that's going to go. This one, to me, isn't one of them. I think it's just a case where I don't think Juliana Miller is quite ready for the UFC. Like I said, 6 professional fights, and she's already at the UFC level. I just think it's a little bit too early. I think Petrovic, although she isn't a top-tier UFC fighter, I do think she can at least hang it with the bottom level of the division, and I think Petrovic gets this one done at a pretty high clip. So we're taking Ivana Petrovic. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next heavyweight division, where Dontel Mays takes on Thomas Petersen. Petersen's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 2-3 for Dontel Mays. Now, this is an interesting one because low-level heavyweights, guys. That's what it is. And usually low-level heavyweights you can play an over, especially if they give you a 1.5. Now, I don't know what the lines are going to be on this. I'm recording it a little bit too early for that. But let's look at this matchup for what it is. Let's start on the Thomas Petersen side. The guy is a decent striker, okay? He's got decent straight punches, but he kind of loses some of that because oftentimes he'll just charge straight in, tuck his chin, and just charge in, throwing those straight punches like that. It looks goofy. If you watch the tape back, you're like, wow, dude, 138, that was the awkwardest looking striking I've ever seen. Yeah, it wasn't. I was mimicking what Thomas does. Trust me, it's rough. But when he gets in the dirty boxing range, gets in that kind of like half clinch there and starts throwing his dirty boxing, that's where he actually looks pretty good in the striking. But it gets a big knockdown because it just tucks the chin and just launches himself in with the weird straight punches. And the reason why is because he wants to get the wrestling going. He's a good wrestler, right? He wrestled in college, had some success in his MMA career using the wrestling. He's got a good body lock takedown. When he gets on top, he's got pretty good ground and pound. I think this is what his key to winning is going to be. If he stands there on the feet and trades strikes with Dontel, I don't think Dontel's all that great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's all right. He's not bad. He's a heavyweight, in the UFC, so he's done a few things, right? I mean, the guy's got some wins, but I think the size, basically the height and the more athletic build, I guess, of Dontel Mays will give him a little bit of help in the striking, whereas Petersen, once he gets on top, we've seen some deficiencies from Mays. Let's talk about Mays a little bit. So, like I said, he's a decent striker with pretty good movement on the feet. He's a little more athletic of a heavyweight. It doesn't take much to be considered an athletic heavyweight, considering most are not. But he's got plenty of power. His striking defense is lacking. It is what it is. I don't think that's going to be his biggest downfall here. But overall, he's kind of decent there. He's a decent grappler as well. Apparently, he has a judo background. We've seen him use the cage push effectively, so maybe that makes a little bit of sense, getting the judo style clinch, but then implementing it with the cage. So I get that. If he gets on top, he's got decent top pressure. This guy's abysmal off his back. And I think that is what is going to tip the scale for me on the Thomas Petersen side. So we're going to take Thomas Petersen to get this one done because I think he's going to get the body lock takedown here, and I think he's going to be able to get on top, and Dontel Mays is not very good off his back. On the feet, it could go either way. So do with that information what you will. We're taking Thomas Petersen. I'll see you in the next bantamweight for this one. We have Gaston Balanos taking on Quang Lee. Quang Lee is 3-2 in his last 5. Balanos is the same, 3-2 in his last 5. Now, interesting matchup here because Lee is the guy that he came in on short notice to fight Chris Gutierrez. Performed relatively well, right? In a loss, he looked pretty good. And then he goes out and gets knocked out in his next fight. And he's had 2 UFC fights, his only 2 losses. But we don't really know where he fits on the UFC ladder, right? So that's tricky. Balanos is in a similar spot, if you ask me. He has beaten Aaron Phillips and he beat Cortavius Ramius, but he lost to Marcus McGee. The gap between Marcus McGee and those 2 guys that he beat is huge. So this is going to be an interesting fight to let us know where we think these guys really are when it comes to the UFC level. I think it's going to help us out a lot. But for now, we're going to go off of what we know, at least to the best of my abilities. Okay, so bear with me on this one. This is a tricky one to break down. For Quang Lee, good striker. He's got good forward pressure, plenty of power, and he works the body really well. These are all things I like. He's got good accuracy. His counter-striking is pretty good. This fight, he is going to want to not be a counter-striker, though, because counter-striking against Balanos is going to be a doozy. That's going to be a doozy for sure. But the rest of those things, all good. Decent wrestling. He often uses takedowns as a change of pace. He used them effectively against Chris Gutierrez when he realized, oh, striking with this guy's not a good idea because Chris Gutierrez is a pretty good striker. And that's something that you hope he uses here because for Balanos, he's a guy that, we'll talk about him in a minute, he comes from a striking background. So if you can start mixing in the takedowns, which Lee can do, you not only get the takedowns, but you start opening up your hands, things like that. When we look at the Balanos side, good striker as well. He's got power, and he has a very dynamic attack. The spinning elbow in particular is something that he's used extremely well, not only in Muay Thai fights, not only in the UFC and MMA. The guy has he's built his game around a spinning elbow, it seems. Maybe not quite. That's a bit of an exaggeration. But he's used the spinning elbow very well. He's got some finishes from it. He can get a bit wild at times trying to do things like that, but normally when you're spinning, I would put it as like one of those plus minuses, much like the getting wild. But in this case, I think the spinning elbow is a good move for him. His grappling, it seems to have improved. His takedown defense looked much better against Cortavius Ramius, but then again, is that a Cortavius Ramius knock, or is that because Balanos has gotten much better at his takedown defense? So it's hard to say. He does have good elbows in the ground and pound, though. I will give him that for sure. This fight's going to tell us a lot. For me, I'm going to take Quang Lee. I think as an underdog, he's a spot that I point spread kind of thing. I think he wins, but at the same time, I also could see this fight going either way and being very close. So let me know what you guys think. I know I'm probably the only person picking Quang Lee this week for some reason. I'm just going to go with it, though. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Strawweight next. We have Marina Rodriguez taking on Gillian Robertson, and this is the tale of 2 career trajectories at this point. Gillian Robertson, she was a fighter at 125 pounds for a while, where she was kind of win one, lose one, something like little momentum, drop it down. She's now down at 115 pounds, and this is the right weight class for her because she's looked great since moving down. She's now 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She's looked much, much better. I think the size discrepancy that she had at 125 is not there. She now looks the right size for the division, so that's something that you like to see. On the other hand, Marina Rodriguez, who has fought the best in the division, she's essentially on the downward slope right now. She's 1-4 in her last 5 fights, and she's only got 5 losses in her career. 4 of those are in her last 5, so that's not something you like to see. But is it a case of she's, getting up there in age, she's had a lot of fights, things like that, and then she's starting to decline? Or is it just a level of competition? Is she just, she's this freaking good, but right here, she just can't quite get it done. So there is that. So for me, this is a hard one to know, but it is an interesting stylistic matchup. We've got striker versus grappler. Now let's talk about that. So for Gillian Robertson, she's a decent striker, but basically it's just because she's trying to set up the takedown. She will come forward. She has a decent 1-2, and she's durable. She'll eat whatever shot she needs to eat on the way in to get a hold of you. Once she gets a hold of you, she's got solid grappling. Her takedowns are just, they're all right, but she's persistent. and she can muscle them a little bit at this weight class. So if she isn't able to get the takedown purely off of technique, she can muscle it a little bit. Now, you will look at her stats for her takedown accuracy, and people are going to harp on that all week. But the thing is, a lot of her career was spent at 125 pounds, and she wasn't as good at getting takedowns up there because, well, she was a lot smaller compared to the people she was fighting. Down at 115, she can get away with more in the takedowns. The takedowns come easier. So I think if you just look at the stats of her getting her takedowns at 115 pounds, as opposed to 125, that's going to look a lot different. So do that if you're doing the research on the takedown accuracy. She has really good transitions on the mat, absolutely slick. She's very, very good at attacking submissions. She'll use some really heavy ground and pound to open up the submissions, and she's basically looking for the rear naked choke or the armbar. Those are her go-tos, right? That's what she wants to finish, and that's how she finishes most of her fights. On the other side, Marina Rodriguez, if she can keep this on the feet, she's going to win. She is the much better striker, right? She's a solid striker with good volume, good combinations. She moves really well on the feet. Fast hands, fast counters. She can use that range to keep her opponent off of her. That's what she needs to do. That is her takedown defense, is keeping range, because her actual takedown defense isn't very good, and she can be held down. She can be controlled on the mat. But if she gets in the clinch range, that's a little different. Once she gets that tie clinch going, those knees are there. That's going to be a position where I think is going to kind of dictate this, because if Robertson gets in on her opponent here in Rodriguez, and she isn't able to get the takedown initially, and she gets pulled up into that tie clinch, that's going to be rough. I can see this fight going either way. It's going to be whoever can implement their game plan, because it is so opposite, style versus style. I am going to go with the grappler, though, in Gillian Robertson. I'm going to go with the momentum. I think she can get the fight to the mat, and we've seen Rodriguez getting held down too often for me to not go that way, and I do think the durability of Robertson is going to let her eat enough shots to get a hold of her opponent and get the takedown. So we're going Gillian Robertson here. Let me know what you think, and I will see you middleweights here. Azamat Bekoev takes on Ryan Loder. Now, this matchup here is interesting because Loder, he's only got 8 pro MMA fights. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Azamat Bekoev is 19-3 on the career, 5-0 in the last 5. 19-3 versus 7-1 as far as experience goes. Bekoev's been there and done that. Now, like with the matchup earlier with the Juliana Miller side, Ryan Loder does come from the Ultimate Fighter, so you do have a few extra bouts in there that don't count on your official record, but they're exhibitions, but they're essentially an MMA fight under the pro rules even, so for the most part. So, whatever, but it's still nowhere near the 19-3 for Bekoev as far as experience. But anyway, let's break this matchup down. Ryan Loder, Azamat Bekoev, we're going to start on the Loder side. Decent striker. He's got a good body kick. That is his best weapon on the feet. But he has pretty good forward pressure, and the takedown threat, because this guy is a very good wrestler, which we'll cover in a moment, does kind of set up the hands with the boxing combinations. They're not crisp boxing combinations. They're not super nice, but he does put together some decent boxing combinations because of that takedown threat. And the pace that he puts on people kind of opens up that striking as well. So it's decent, right? But the body kick's about his only weapon that you're looking out for, and you're saying, oh, that's something we got to watch out for on the feet. Most of his skill comes here. He's a solid wrestler with very good takedowns. His entries are solid. This guy, when he shoots a takedown entry on you, it's clean, it's crisp. He's not doing these sloppy, just try to get a hold of somebody and pull him to the mat. He's working his takedowns very well, right? He sticks to the takedowns. If he doesn't get it on the first attempt, he's either going to stick with it or chain a second or third or fourth even attempt to that takedown to get you to the mat. Once he gets you there, most of the time his control is pretty good, but the ground and pound is heavy. He outworks guys on the mat, lands heavy shots, and the control is pretty good. If he does lose position, he's right back on top. He's looking for that spot again, or he'll get back up and then retake somebody down. So for me, I think Ryan Loder's wrestling is going to be his path here, because he's fighting a guy who is more well-rounded, right? Azamat Bekoev, this dude's going to be the better striker. He is a pretty good striker. He's got good forward pressure as well. Decent amount of power, right? He's got basic combinations. Now, when I say basic, I have to say this every time because people in the comments don't understand. Basic isn't bad, right? Basic doesn't mean bad. It means it's the basic toolbox, right? He doesn't throw anything crazy. He sticks to the basics, but he does them well, right? So, maybe he's putting out a 1-2-3. Basic combo, but a 1-2-3 is an effective combo, and he does it pretty well. So basic doesn't mean bad. I just need to clarify that. He has basic combos, and he uses them pretty well. Will work the body well. I do like that for him. Not a lot of guys, as you start getting up into higher weight classes, are doing, a lot of body work. Middleweight, we're kind of at the middle, right? So maybe you get a little bit more of it here, but not a ton. So I do like that he works the body. He has good wrestling of his own. He's got good takedowns, very powerful takedowns. So different than Loder in the style of takedown, but he definitely has the ability to get the fight to the mat. Got a good single leg, really like that, and he's got pretty good ground and pound. We've seen him use that already thus far in the UFC to have some success. For me, this is crazy once you look at the odds because Bekoev is a huge favorite. Just yesterday, I saw Loder as high as a plus 315. I outright think Loder wins this fight. I think he's going to put way too much pressure on Bekoev. This is a guy, Bekoev, who's good, don't get me wrong, who was just like a okay favorite over Zach Reese. A lot of people were picking Zach Reese to beat this guy. Sure, he beat Zach Reese. Loder is leaps and bounds ahead of Zach Reese, if you ask me. If you ask me, maybe I'm wrong. I think Loder's going to be able to out-wrestle Bekoev. I think the pace he's going to put on is going to make Bekoev a little bit hesitant to try to get his own offense going because he's going to be defending. I think Ryan Loder gets this one done, and as a massive underdog, I was shocked. So we're taking Ryan Loder here. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm crazy. Obviously, the bookies disagree with me. So let me know in the comments. If you disagree, that's okay. Just don't be a dick about it, and I won't be a dick back. I'll see you guys in the next. Yana Santos takes on Miesha Tate. Now, both of these ladies have been around for a while. You might remember Yana Santos as Yana Kunitskaya if you've been around for a while, right? Both of them are 2-3 in the last 5. Later stages of their career. I do think one of them is a little closer to retirement than the other. We'll touch on that in a bit. But let's talk about Miesha Tate first. She is on the far side of the board, and that's where we start. Good striker, right? She works her jab pretty well. She's got pretty good kicks, pretty good combinations, but the striking defense, I mean, the girl looks like she gets touched up bad in every single fight. It's mostly straight shots that get her. Those straight shots right down the middle, those are what are doing the work to her. Bloodying up the nose, marking up the face. She does have a pastier complexion to her, so it does show damage easier, so that's not exactly what you want, but I will say the defense is lacking, and she pretty much is always bleeding out of her nose out of every fight. So, means you're not blocking them right down the middle, right? That's what it means. She's a good grappler, decent takedowns. When she gets the fight to the mat, she's got good control, and she takes it back pretty well. I do think she is going to have a grappling advantage here. It's whether or not she can get it going. On the other side, we've got Yana Santos. Yana Santos is a good striker. Good volume. I like her volume quite a bit. She doesn't have the power to go along with it, which is a shame because if she had the power to go along with it, I think her striking would be quite a bit more impressive because she does mix her punches and kicks together very well. She's got good lateral movement, and her step-in elbows that she's been adding to her game as of recent have been pretty darn good. And if somebody's not blocking down the middle and you got a step-in elbow coming in, that could be a rough day. Regardless of the power, that could be a rough day. So I do like that for Santos. I do think she's going to be the better striker, even though I have them both rated as good. There's incremental levels, is what I'm saying. I think Yana Santos is going to be the better striker. The grappling. This has been her downfall in the past. She's a decent grappler offensively. She's got a pretty good cage push. She can mix in her own takedowns, but defensively, that's what bumps her down, right? Does not have the best takedown defense, and she can be held down. If Miesha Tate goes to a grappling-heavy game plan, starts going for takedowns right away, that's her path to win. If this stays on the feet, I think Santos outworks her. I am going to take Santos because I think she has more left in the tank. Miesha Tate hasn't looked as good since she's come back from retirement. She just hasn't really shown me that she has the same kind of drive to win like she did back before the retirement. I'm not saying she doesn't. I'm just saying that's not what I've seen. I can only comment on what I've seen. Yana Santos, on the other hand, came out in her last fight with a reinvigorated kind of aura to her. So we're taking Yana Santos. I think she's got more left in the tank, more drive to win, and I think that's going to help her quite a bit. Let me know what you guys think. 55 pounds here. Jeremy Stephens makes his return to Iowa. He takes on Mason Jones. Now, a little bit of information here. I do believe this is a one-off fight for Jeremy Stephens. I think this is a situation where the UFC is returning to Iowa, and they haven't been to Iowa in ages, and Jeremy Stephens is like Mr. Iowa for the people of Des Moines. You know what I mean? They're really going to be getting behind Jeremy Stephens. He's a local guy, and that's why he's being brought in for this fight. Now, he's had some recent success in BKFC, so that's something that has some hype around his name. I do think that's going to help him here for the fan pop and everything, but that's why they're bringing him in, is because it's in Des Moines. But they're also bringing back Mason Jones. He was released from the UFC after a very short stint. He got his only 2 losses in the UFC, or were in the UFC when he was here in the first stint. Now he's coming back. He's now taking on Jeremy Stephens. And when we look at this, I'm comparing only the MMA record for Jeremy Stephens. His bare knuckle boxing and MMA are much different, right? You can agree with me there, can't you? If we agree on anything, I feel like we can agree on that. Bare knuckle boxing and MMA are quite a bit different. Now, Jeremy Stephens, he's 1-4 in his last MMA fights. 4-1 in the last 5 MMA fights for Mason Jones. Now, let's start on the Mason Jones side. Let's break him down. He's a good striker. He's got good combinations. He works the body well. He does all of this while coming forward, and he has a really good step-in knee. His goal often is to get his opponents up against the cage, where he can mix in his grappling with that cage push. He has really good dirty boxing and good knees. So he'll be mixing those, those body shots with the dirty boxing and then bringing the knee up. That's where you're seeing him get a lot of his success. And he has some decent throws as well. He's not the type of guy that I would say is heavily looking for the grappling per se, like the grappling when I say grappling, what you think of. But he does mix it in really well. He kind of blends these two things together and he's just an all-around good fighter, right? On the other side, Jeremy Stephens is a striker. He's a solid striker. This dude's got more power than most fighters, not only in the division, but just in the UFC in general. Maybe not. Okay, I guess I take that back. You got to compare like heavyweights and stuff, but definitely in the division. The dude's got more power than probably anybody in the division. Just the way that he hits is unreal, and he keeps that power late. There's some of his knockout reel. If you go just look up his highlights for his knockouts, it's crazy. They're nasty. So that is something that makes him live in just about every fight, is the fact that he could put anybody out with that one shot, right? Good forward pressure. He puts together combinations. His kicks are pretty solid. Those leg kicks are nasty. He hasn't used those as much lately because he hasn't been fighting in MMA lately, but they're still there. He has a nasty, like, Mortal Kombat style uppercut. It's like coming from here, and it's just like he's trying to put you through the ceiling. If you know, if anybody that played those old Mortal Kombat games, he's trying to like uppercut you into the next level up so you guys can fight on a different stage. That's what this dude's doing with those uppercuts. We've seen him knock some people dead with those. You love to see it. The grappling, though. Offensively, he's decent because if he starts getting the ground and pound going, brutal. He just dives in and just like throws elbows on the way down. Super fantastic. However, takedown defense isn't very good and he can get stuck there. In his run in the PFL, we saw a lot of people take advantage of the fact that he doesn't have the best defensive grappling, especially at this stage in his career. And ultimately, I think that's why Mason Jones is getting it done. I'm rooting for Jeremy Stephens, who isn't. I mean, except for Mason Jones and his friends and family, of course. But I'm rooting for Jeremy Stephens because, you want one for the hometown hero, the veteran, the grizzled veteran, the hometown guy, all that good stuff. You want that. I don't think he's getting it done. I think it's going to be Mason Jones to be able to grapple him when he needs to. It won't be the performance that the fans are going to like if he does do that, because everybody in the arena is probably going to be rooting for Jeremy Stephens. So a tough welcome back for Mason Jones, but I do think he gets to win. We're taking him here as obviously a pretty big favorite, so it makes sense. Let me know what you guys think. Weight fight here. Cameron Smotherman takes on Serhiy Sidey. Both of these guys are 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Let's break this one down, shall we? For Serhiy Sidey, I think he's the more well-rounded guy. He's a good striker with good forward pressure and throws a lot of straight punches. He will mix those straight punches up from the head to the body, whether it's the jab or that cross. Does a good job mixing those in. He can mix everything together, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of the emphasis of his game, is those long straights. Good grappling as well. I've got a lot of notes on his grappling because it's an interesting style, the way he grapples. And he does have a good body lock, but the kick catching is what usually gets people to the mat. The problem that he can suffer from, though, is he'll eat a lot of leg kicks if he gets to trying to catch kicks too much, and his opponent's pretty good at pulling those kicks back. That's when he can start eating a ton of leg kicks, because he'll have to eat it to catch it, and if he can't catch the kick, then he eats a bunch of them, especially if they're lower leg kicks on the lower calf. Does have pretty good control when he takes guys to the mat, and he'll almost allow them to create a scramble so he can advance his position. So that's something I really like for a guy like Sidey, and I do think he's going to have a grappling advantage here. Good ground and pound, takedown defense. I don't think he's going to need that here, but good takedown defense. He sprawls, gets the underhooks in, good stuff like that. So anyway, grappling edge goes to Serhiy Sidey. He's probably the more well-rounded fighter, but Smotherman's a heck of a striker. The guy's got good striking abilities, feints really well, uses that to set up his combinations, counter strikes well. He's got power. He's accurate. The power comes from that accuracy, honestly. We have seen him a little bit lacking in the defense at times, and that can be a problem, but offensively, the guy's not a great striker. He's a really good striker. Great is a pretty extreme term. But he's a really good striker on the feet, like I said. But defensively, we've seen some lapses. Obviously, getting knocked out by Charalampos Gregorio isn't the best look. That did happen to him on the Contender Series in like 2023. I know that was a long time ago, 2 years. I'm just saying, not a good look. We have seen some liabilities. Now, decent takedown defense, and he will work really hard to get back up because this dude has a severe aversion to grappling. He does not want to grapple whatsoever, and rightfully so. Keep the fight where you can. You want it where you can win. right? And that's on the feet for Smotherman. He wants to keep this fight standing. He is a bit of a slow starter at times, not in every fight, but in the majority of them. So I did keep it as a note. For me in this one, it comes down to the fact that I think Sidey's going to be the more well-rounded guy, and I think he's going to be there early as well as late, where I think it's going to be more of a later starting to build things up for performance for Smotherman. So I've got to go with Serhiy Sidey here. I think he's going to be more active. I think if he starts mixing in the grappling, it's going to lead him to success at a pretty high clip. So we're taking Serhiy Sidey, but let me know what you think. And really interesting bantamweight matchup between Montel Jackson and Daniel Marcos. Now, both these guys are undefeated in their last 5. There is that no contest thrown in there for Marcos, though, where he was clearly dominating the fight, but, you know, sometimes people just need a way out. It's okay. In this one here, it's going to be interesting because for Daniel Marcos, the guy is extremely skilled on the feet. The guy's a very solid striker. Good combinations, good head movement. He counter strikes really well. His leg kicks are good, works the body really well. Something I like a lot is in tight, the dude can just throw a jump knee out of nowhere. Like he'll be right there in the pocket and he throws a jump knee with no setup. A lot of people have to do that, like, you know, they have to lower or they have to do like the double pump. Does not have to do that. He just throws it straight up. It's very, very impressive. He's got a tight defense. The one thing I don't necessarily like about Marcos is he can be content to back up and try to pick his counter shots, things like that. That's going to cost him big time if he does that in this fight. He needs to be going forward and he needs to be getting inside of the range because he's going to have a huge disadvantage. What, like 7 inches or something against Montel Jackson in the range. If that reach advantage isn't negated by crashing into the pocket, getting in there and starting to work inside, he's probably losing this fight. However, if he does get inside, he does have a lot of skills, especially with that pocket boxing, that jump knees inside, things like that he can actually work to pretty good success. So this is going to be contingent on whether he wins or not. If he gets stuck backing up and trying to play outside, he's probably screwed. If he gets inside, he's probably going to have a lot of success. Now, good grappler as well. Takedown defense is good. He's really hard to hold down, and he also can mix in takedowns of his own. That's not his game, but he can mix them in, especially if he just needs to secure a round. We saw him do that in the Yana's fight. Now, on the other side, Montel Jackson. I would give this guy a better rating for his striking if he was just a little more output heavy, right? He's got a lot of power, and he's got really good striking defense. These are 2 things that you love to see. Part of that comes from the range, right? If you've got those long arms, it's like a whip, you know? The longer the whip, the more of a crack you get at the end of it. So it's like a punch. When he throws that punch out there, boom, snaps that big, heavy-handed guy, puts guys down. It makes sense. He's got a ton of power. Also, the striking defense, his range makes it really hard for guys to come in on him because he's clear out at range. And when you do come in, you know that there's power coming back your way, and you know that you have to cross the danger zone, and you're going to get hit likely before you can hit him unless you find a way to disguise that entry. Now, he's really patient, which is good. That means he sets up his shots, he picks his shots, lands the big shots, things like that, but it can result in low output at times. If he just uptick that just a little bit, man, this guy could be deadly. However, he's a good grappler as well. He can wrestle really well. The takedowns are there. The takedown defense is there. And if he gets on top, his top control is excellent. Now, here's the problem for Jackson. I think Jackson has a lot more finish upside in this fight, but I think minute winning is going to go to Marcos. Marcos has shown over the course of his UFC career, actually his whole career, 17-0, he has the ability to win minutes at a high clip. And even when people think he's not winning minutes, according to the judges, he is. So for Daniel Marcos, I think he's winning this fight until he's not, if he does in fact lose. If Marcos loses, I think it's inside the distance. If Marcos wins, I mean, he could get a finish, but I think it's a decision. I think it's one of those things where he has the output. Sure, there's some tough spots, but the dude got a good chin and a good defense. If he can avoid that power shot, I think he's going to put out more volume. So for me, it's a tricky fight to pick. I'm going to side with Daniel Marcos, though. And I know he's the underdog. I'm picking way too many underdogs this card. It's okay. Whatever. I'm taking him. I think Daniel Marcos wins the minutes, and if he gets knocked out, so be it. We're gonna say Daniel Marcos gets this one done, probably 29-28. He probably has a scare around where he gets dropped and survives somehow, and that's what I'm seeing happening. But let me know what you guys think. I will see you in a welterweight match next. Santiago Ponzinibbio takes on Daniel Rodriguez. Now, this should be a strikers match all the way through, right? Both these guys are 2-3 in their last 5 fights. Both guys prefer to strike. Both guys are at the tail end of their careers, presumably. And I think that kind of makes for good matchmaking, right? So Daniel Rodriguez, we're going to start there. He's pretty much a boxer. He's a good striker. Solid jab. The jab is probably one of his better weapons. He starts to, kind of build on that throughout the fight, get the volume going with that jab. He has pretty good movement, but he does stick to the basics, which is a good thing. He sticks to what he does well, and he continues to do that, and that's what wins him fights. I mean, the guy's got 18 wins and only 5 losses. However, he's 2-3 in his last 5, so that means lately, towards the tail end of his career, those losses are starting to come. Now, he does have decent grappling. It's the front chokes. The guy is pretty good at getting a front choke in there when he needs it, but I don't think that's going to be a thing. These guys are probably going to stand and strike the whole time until somebody either goes down or we get a decision. Now, on the other side, Ponzinibbio, solid striker. I think he's a little bit better striker. I think he's got good movement. I think he bounces in and out of the pocket a little bit better. Good volume. I think he's got a little more power, and that solid leg kick that he has against those, little toothpick legs of Daniel Rodriguez. You just got to quit skipping leg day. I think that's going to be something that helps him out a lot. But the problem is, I didn't write it up here because it hasn't really cost him too much, I guess, except for in the Holland fight. But Holland hits hard. His durability seems to be starting to fade. I can't quite say for sure yet, so it's kind of just a hunch, right? It's a question mark on his game right now, is how the durability of Ponzinibbio is, because he seems like he's getting wobbled a whole lot. At least that's what it seems like to me. So this fight, maybe we'll find out. If Daniel Rodriguez starts wobbling him early, that's a big problem. So we'll see, because Rodriguez isn't the type of guy that has one-punch power, really, as at this level. He's typically beating you with volume and putting it on you like that. So that's how we're going to know. Takedown defense is pretty decent for Ponzinibbio. He doesn't really grapple offensively anymore. It's mostly just defensively. So, yeah, like I said, striking matchup. Anyway, when it comes to this one, it's tricky because, on one hand, you're like, oh, man, what about that durability? Ponzinibbio's had a lot of fights. On the other hand, you're like, man, but Ponzinibbio's a better striker in the striking matchup. I think I'm going to go with the better striker in the striking matchup. It's a close fight. It's a tough fight. Tough one to call. Might be a good one to crack open a root beer and just watch it. But I'm going to take Ponzinibbio in this one here. And let me know what you think. I'll see you next fight. In the middleweight division for a really tricky matchup here. We have Bo Nickal taking on Reinier de Ridder. This is an interesting one here for a couple of reasons. One, 19-2 versus 7-0. Experience is heavily on the side of Reinier de Ridder. Level of competition, heavily on the side of Reinier de Ridder. Undefeated record, side of Bo Nickal. Potential could be on the side of Bo Nickal. I mean, the guy's, young in his MMA career. And accolades for combat sports outside of MMA, I would say Bo Nickal's got quite a few of those, So it's one of those things where, we don't really know where Bo Nickal's at. We have a decent idea where Reinier de Ridder's at. His only loss is to a juiced-up heavyweight monster over in one. Lost to him twice. It makes sense. I think that same thing would happen to Bo if he fought that guy. So it's a tricky fight. It's a really tricky fight because a guy like de Ridder often doesn't look super pretty, but he still wins. And a guy like Bo Nickal often looks really good, but then kind of just because he's so hyped up seems to underwhelm. You know what I mean? At least that's where I'm at. Let's break them down skill for skill, though. But I needed to get that out of the way because this is a tricky one. It really is. For Bo, decent striker. The takedown threat often sets up the overhand. I mean, if you're getting in looking like you're going for a leg and you throw that big overhand over the top, it's a good move. It's a good move. Decent enough power, right? Not super heavy hitter, but a decent enough powerful punch. The high level wrestling's where it's at, though. This is when he needs to win fights at a pretty decent clip. He's got excellent takedowns and excellent entries. Even on takedowns he's not looking to finish, he's just looking to set up. The guy gets deep on an entry. He feints the takedowns really well, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, and he can use that to freeze his opponents. I don't think that's going to work here, though, because I don't think de Ridder cares if you take him down because of his grappling. We're going to get to that in a minute. But this kind of stuff here makes me wonder quite a bit, growing submission arsenal. Yeah, he's getting there. Still doesn't look super comfortable with all this stuff, but he's taken time in between fights to develop, and that's what you want to see. So there's a lot of unknowns, and I know people in the comments are already just upset with everything I've said in this breakdown so far of this fight, so that's okay. Just hang tight. Reinier de Ridder, decent striking in the sense that he's got a good knee and a decent jab. That's about it. The knee is good. He does have a good knee. Probably helps he's 6'5" or something like that. The decent jab, it's all right. Solid grappler, though. This is where it's at. He's got good throws. Kind of looks like Gumby out there sometimes, though, so that's a problem. So he's all loosey-goosey or whatever. Decent takedowns. But, getting the fight to the mat, it's going to be tricky to get a guy like Bo, who probably has a strong base, probably has pretty good takedown defense. We haven't really seen anybody try to just go out there and ragdoll him. I don't know how that's going to work, right? Does he jump guard? I don't think that's a good idea in MMA. So I don't know. It's tricky. But he does have the far better submission arsenal, does Reinier de Ridder. I would say that de Ridder's submission arsenal is vastly above Bo Nickal, and I don't think anybody can reasonably argue otherwise. Ground and pound, I would give that to de Ridder as well, because we've seen the guy use the ground and pound effectively to open up submissions in the past. We haven't really seen Bo Nickal use a ton of high-level ground and pound. So it's like we've got a raw prospect here versus an established guy, but it's just how much is this raw prospect improved? You're given, at least last time I had seen it, it was plus 250 or something like that for de Ridder. Bo Nickal's the type of guy that attracts a lot of betting action. If you're giving me de Ridder at like plus 300 or more, it's like how do you not take a guy with 19-2 against some of the better guys in the division that, or at least way better competition than Bo Nickal's faced? It's tricky. I'm going to take de Ridder, and I'm going to catch a bunch of flack for it. Whatever. I don't know. Be mad. It's fine. You can come back and tell me I'm stupid if Bo Nickal just like lays on him for 3 rounds and doesn't get subbed. I know. It's whatever, but I'm taking de Ridder. We are at the main event of the evening. Cory Sandhagen takes on Deiveson Figueiredo in the bantamweight division. But first, folks, have you got your weekly good deeds in yet? I know it's probably early in the week when you're watching this and you're thinking, I just haven't got around to it yet. Let me help you out. It only takes a few seconds of your time to hit that like button on this video, and it really goes a long way to help, well, me, actually, mostly just me, but to help me by getting this video out to more people so more people can enjoy our time here in class, looking at the whiteboard, listening to me talk about fights that'll be irrelevant after Saturday. So if you could do that for me, please hit the like button. I do appreciate it very much. Let's break down this fight. We've got Deiveson Figueiredo. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He's taking on Cory Sandhagen, who is also 3-2 in his last 5. Now, Deiveson has been a top guy in both of the divisions he's been in, right? Flyweight, he was the champion for a very long time, had a great run, got a little up there in age and started being like, man, the weight cut sucks, and he's a thick dude, short but thick. So dude had to move up to bantamweight. Now here he is. He's looking pretty good, right? Now 3-2 in the last 5. You're like, okay, well, he's got some losses. We got 4 losses in the career, okay? It's not that bad. Now, when he lost his last matchup, you're thinking, man, that just didn't look that great. But it's Petr Yan, and who else has Petr Yan beat? Cory Sandhagen. So, okay, you can't hold that against him too much, but could be age catching up to him. He didn't have as much output as you like to see, but the dude still hits hard. The dude still has a lot of abilities in both the grappling and the striking. So when we look at Deiveson Figueiredo, I don't really think he's slowing down that much. He never has been the most output-heavy guy. So the things that he does do well, he still seems to be doing well. He's got good striking. He's got good forward pressure. The power and the accuracy are what really get him his wins, right? He's super patient and picks his shots really well. It's the power and the accuracy that are getting those knockdowns. This dude sat down Marlon Vera. Nobody does that. Sean O'Malley hit Marlon Vera in the face with a knee that sounded like a baseball bat. Dude didn't even act like it fazed him. Figueiredo sits him on his butt. That's a pretty good deal, if you ask me. He works the body really well. He's got nasty kicks. People forget about the kicks. But he is patient. And that's good because he can pick his shots well and he doesn't fatigue himself. But it's bad because his output's going to be too low. Like, his hands are going to be down. His output's going to be down. He's going to be sitting here looking for that shot, looking for the big sniper of a shot. Great. But he's going to be getting outworked until those moments because Sandhagen's going to have the volume. We'll get to him in a minute, but I do think that he's going to be getting outworked on the feet as far as the volume goes, and I think that could be a problem. However, it only takes one shot from this guy to put you down. He puts you on your butt, get you on wobbly legs, make you look like a baby deer out there with your legs doing the little shaky thing that you do. Either way, that's something that he can do to change the tide of a fight, right? I like a lot of things for Figueiredo. The one thing I don't like is the volume, but I get it. Now, grappling. Solid grappler. He doesn't use it as often. He's used it more at 135, but he didn't use it as often down at 125 pounds. He had some good wins with the grappling, but it was kind of like when opponents would initiate on him, he would then say, all right, I'll grapple a little bit. I'll grapple. But he's got nasty chokes, super tight squeeze. This dude can just pull your head right off your shoulders. It doesn't matter. He doesn't even have to get under the chin. He's just said, I'm just going to take this sucker home with me. That's what he does. He's a good scrambler when he wants to be. He's super explosive when he wants to be. Good sweeps, good top pressure if he gets on top, and his transitions are lightning fast. Now, if he does mix in the takedowns, he's decent there. He has to muscle him a little bit. In the past at flyweight, the takedowns have really fatigued him. We haven't seen that as much at bantamweight, so take that for what you will. But this is probably going to be a higher paced fight than most of the fights he's been in so far at bantamweight. But just know that in the past, the takedowns have fatigued him, but they haven't looked as much as fatiguing since moving up to bantamweight. On the other side, Cory Sandhagen, super solid striker. He's super unorthodox, which is good and bad. I mean, there are drawbacks to being very different. I mean, things become a traditional style because they work typically. But, you know, he is unorthodox and it works well for him. He's got good footwork, damaging knees and elbows. The dude's got those long, lanky arms and legs, which mean there's a lot of bone exposed, right? I mean, that's just how that works. So those elbows and knees are pretty nasty. Good flying knee as well. We don't see him use it as much anymore, but he still has that in the toolbox. It's not like it's gone. The volume, that's what I was talking about. Cory Sandhagen is going to be landing more volume than Deiveson Figueiredo. That is, I'm certain of that. Okay, not certain. Certain's pretty extreme, but I feel very confident in saying that. Cory Sandhagen is going to have a better volume. He's got good combination ability. Something I really like from Sandhagen is he'll like rip that hook to the body and then come back with a leg kick. It's an odd combination. That's not a combination you see hardly anybody else doing. Sandhagen rips that body hook, comes back with the leg kick. It's something that I think if he starts getting that going early, that's usually when you see him start to have success, and it gets guys to get start going low. Figueiredo's already going to have like kind of the low hands. If he can get him even lower because of that, that's when the stuff up top starts to work out for him. He's also going to have his hands low as Sandhagen. That's okay. His footwork is what his striking defense is. He's not looking for he can counter, don't get me wrong, but he's not sitting there like waiting for the counter shot low. He's more moving and using that as his striking defense. He can be backed up though, and I think that a guy like Figueiredo is going to have some success backing up Sandhagen. Now, when it comes to the grappling, Sandhagen's a good grappler. I don't think he's on the level of Figueiredo, but he's a good grappler. He will mix his takedowns in with his strikes, and I could see him doing something where last 30, 40 seconds of the round, he's throwing some strikes or whatever, and then he shoots a takedown real quick just to keep the wheels turning in the head of Figueiredo, make him think, oh shoot, I got to watch out for those just in case, because I don't want to have to expend the energy to defend these or get back up. So I could see him mixing those in if he needs to. He does have good top control. Long, lanky limbs actually are pretty good for top control. Kind of like a constrictor snake. You just kind of wrap your opponent up. He does have the ability to do that. His elbows from the ground and pound, much like his elbows on the feet, very damaging. But the problem is once he's flattened out, he can get stuck because he doesn't really have the explosivity to get back to his feet with the power. And if you got somebody on top of you like Figueiredo, you kind of have to have a little bit of power because not only is he super skilled, but he's also strong. So I know everybody, well, if you have the technique, you should be able to get up. Yeah, in a perfect world, in a vacuum, if you have the technique, you should be able to get up. But strength is going to play a part. And a guy like Figueiredo is built like a brick house. So if he gets on top of you, being skilled and strong, it's going to be tough to get back up. So I do think he can struggle there. Close fight. I think it's going to come down to a decision. I think it's going to come down to who's doing more, and that's going to be Sandhagen, because I think Figueiredo can win rounds by scoring a knockdown, sure. I don't think he's going to knock out Sandhagen. Maybe he does, but I don't think he will. And I think Sandhagen's going to do enough to just be up on the scorecards until he isn't. And I don't see a knockdown in 3 rounds for Figueiredo. So I feel like it's going to be one of those things where Sandhagen's going to outpoint him to a decision. We're going to see some really big moments from Figueiredo. But on the scorecard, Sandhagen's getting it done. At least that's how I see it. But let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you tuning in, whether you like it or you hate it and you're just watching because you want to say mean things to me. I don't care. I love that you're here because the engagement is what makes the video go. The longer you watch the video, that's the #1 indicator for YouTube as to whether this video needs to be pushed out to more people. So if you're still watching at this point, whether you're watching because you like me or you're hate watching, you've really helped the video. So thank you guys so much for that, and I will catch you down the road.